Later on, in DC, there's a revolution underway as well. On its 50th anniversary, there is need for a change. While searching for young writers and artists with original ideas, the company decides to produce higher quality comics with fewer editions. In the attempt to hunt for talent wherever it can be found, the company goes to England. There they find and hire a successful scriptwriter named Alan Moore. Moore is a cult writer, a versatile man with a lot of talent. His Watchmen, with brilliant illustrations by Dave Gibbons, becomes immediately controversial and has great impact on the market. After reading it, no one could ever take the superheroes seriously again.
I suppose that what I'm trying to do is to convey my very deep distrust for the idea of heroes. I don't personally believe in heroes. There are people who do very, very brave things, but that's not the same as heroism. A hero is somebody who has been set up on a pedestal above humanity. Somebody who, because they have large muscles or a cleft chin or handsome wavy blonde hair or steel blue eyes, are believed to be somehow better than the rest of us, are believed to be more capable of making moral decisions. The belief in heroes, I think, at one end leads to people like Colonel Oliver North, people who, he wears a uniform, he makes decisions for the rest of the country. In many ways, Oliver North is a military Superman. And in my portrayal of the superheroes, I wanted to call that whole notion into question.
Rorschach, profession, watchman, former US government agent, currently outside the law, no permanent address, maintains double identity. By day employed in clothing industry, at night he is Rorschach, the crazy watchman. The comedian, profession, watchman, #1 US government agent, on active duty for 40 years. The owl, profession, former watchman. He decided to become a superhero because it looked like fun, something stimulating and necessary. Before that, he was a car mechanic. Since he left active service, he's been back at his old job. He believes that the greatness of a hero is knowing when to quit. Dr. Manhattan, profession, watchman. Currently the only superhero in the service of the US government. In 1959, a young American scientist was the victim of a nuclear accident that disintegrated his body. Some weeks later, the particles reformed again in another form of consciousness. He can reshape reality by manipulating structural elements. Ozymandias, profession, former watchman. Currently president of the Vite Company, multinational. Dedicated to selling his own image by taking advantage of his prestige as a superhero. He was a gifted child. Many consider him the most intelligent man in the world. Previously, Marvel had modernized the unprofitable comics with the help of the unknown Frank Miller. Miller's work with Daredevil was brilliant and helped make the title one of Marvel's bestsellers. When he leaves the series, he is one of the highest paid writer-artists of the day. From this moment on, everything Miller does is an innovation. With the series Ronar, he opens up new trends in design and presentation. In Dark Knight, Miller depicts such a radical and contemporary vision of the old Batman that he makes thousands of fans reread the old series. The 80s are the years of modernization. Miller's work contains more radical and aesthetically stylized approaches to storytelling, such as those found in the work of Russell, Sindovitz, Simonson, and Chaykin.
I'm an obsessive for, if this goes on, post-Holocaust negative utopia scenarios. I've been reading these since I was a kid. I love them. They were pornography before pornography was pornography for me. And American Flag is basically the kitchen sink of all of my post-Holocaust negative utopia fantasies. The use of television, sure, I'm obsessed by television, and I'm obsessed by the obsession with television and by the manipulation of TV. I don't think, I mean, I lived through a long decade of American self-hatred, you know, from the late 60s through the 70s, and I don't believe that it's quite this bad. I mean, Flag, at heart, is a burlesque, a humor book, a comic book that's about popular culture, about sex, about violence, and I have a very hard time ascribing to it any particular profound observations other than it's a very intense read and a lot of fun, and does things that most comic books shouldn't do. You know, takes time.
The Bernard Goetz case is to have repercussions in certain types of comics, particularly in those where the protagonist is a vigilante who takes justice into his own hands. Over the years, the superhero has become more human due to popular demand. So now Miller and Moore carry out the last stage of bringing them up to date. One of their creations is a fearful god with absolute powers, while another is a pitiful being with serious psychological problems.
I hope it will revitalise comics. As far as superhero or fantasy comics goes, I certainly have no further interest in them. I don't know whether I've reached puberty or what, but they don't seem to have the same appeal to me that they used to have when I was younger. I think I've probably worked a lot of it out of my system with the superhero work I've been doing over the past 4 or 5 years. I think that comics have certainly benefited from the new ideas that have been emerging over the last 18 months, not just mine, but ones by Frank Miller, the Hernandez brothers, Art Spiegelman, and so on. They've certainly received much more critical attention, serious critical attention, than they ever have before. As far as the superhero goes, however, as I say, for my part, I'm more or less finished with it. I don't think that when I was doing Watchmen or when Frank Miller was doing Dark Knight, that we really intended to save the superhero. I think it was more of an assassination job.